This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. 5 years ago, deep in a bear market, a group of traditional finance experts founded BitGet, and they've been building ever since. Now, with 20 million users worldwide, BitGet is committed to helping users trade smarter by providing a secure one-stop crypto investment solution with copy trading, future trading, and spot trading. Your security is their priority, and BitGet has one of the largest protection funds in the industry, with US $300 million to cover potential trader losses from unforeseen events that are not due to misconduct from the user or platform. BitGet wants to inspire everyone to embrace Web3, so if you're new to crypto, learn more at the BitGet Academy with free blockchain courses, crypto guides, cryptocurrency trading strategies, and more. Or for the experienced investor, trade smarter with daily access to institutional-grade crypto market intelligence and trends analysis with BitGet Research. I've put links to BitGet Research and the BitGet Academy in the show notes, so get amongst it or simply go to bitget.com. Thank you to BitGet, and now it is on with the show. My guest today is Andrew McFarlane. Andrew is the CTO at Validation Cloud, a staking as a service provider. Hey, welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you, Andy. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on today.
It is a pleasure. Andrew, let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. Be great if you could please introduce yourself. Be cool to hear a little bit about your personal and professional history, really, what you've been doing in the lead up to joining the team at Validation Cloud.
Sure. So a little bit more on me. I'm one of the co-founders and CTO of Validation Cloud. My background is in computer engineering. Spent some time early in my career in telecom, working on content distribution networks, as well as cybersecurity before getting into the Web3 space about 6 years ago now, initially from an investment perspective with some of my co-founders, and saw the opportunities to provide better infrastructure to the Web3 ecosystem. And on the back of that, we founded Validation Cloud, which is a Web3 infrastructure company that you can think of in many ways as a Cloudflare for Web3. So we're bringing scalability, resilience into the Web3 infrastructure space and providing a platform for different ecosystems. So that involves staking, Node API, and data as a service for many of the top ecosystems across the blockchain space.
And so just to be clear, when we talk about institutions in this case, I guess, yes, another way of saying who is the target audience or the different customer segments, if you like, for Validation Cloud, Andrew?
Sure. So I can nuance that based on product, but at a high level, our platform is built for enterprise or institutions in the staking space. That includes institutional asset managers, custodians, exchanges that require significant security and resilience in order to feel comfortable in a staking as a service product. We're very proud to have achieved our SOC 2 compliance, which is really the gold standard of security in the Web2 space, and bringing that over to our infrastructure in Web3. And on the Node API and data side, enterprise can include everything from large applications to many of the different stakeholders across an ecosystem, whether it be wallets, exchanges, or blue chip enterprises who want to push their transactions and read data from the state of blockchain networks. And we've built that product to be highly scalable. So we're proud to have ranked #1 on Compare Nodes, which ranks the top Node API providers in the space in terms of performance. for, I believe, 6+ months since we've been listed on their website. And so giving high performance and scalability to these applications in order to really scale their businesses.
Got it. Thank you, Andrew. Just before we jump into some of the I guess the differences between Validation Cloud and other staking providers, I guess, and some of the advantages that you guys provide, be probably useful, Andrew, just to kind of get a recap, and would love to get this from you, just in terms of just a high level overview of what staking is, why it's important, and I guess the benefits that staking provides to various crypto ecosystems. I suppose we're really specifically talking about Ethereum in this case, but just love to get a recap, if you like.
Sure. So in many ways, Ethereum is the flagship deployment of proof of stake, but we do support other proof of stake based ecosystems like Aptos, Casper, and several others. So maybe wind that back and talk about staking at a high level. So different ecosystems emerged. First, obviously, was Bitcoin with proof of work. And there's been different proof of variants in the space, which is really at a very high level a way of selecting who is the next miner or validator for building the next block in the blockchain network. And so proof of stake emerged as well. One way to select that is relative to the amount of stake associated with that validator. So staking as a service is really a way to connect token holders with the underlying infrastructure to be able to participate in consensus. And that really allows for two things. One is it improves the security of the protocol. As there's more tokens participating in consensus, it becomes more prohibitively expensive to influence consensus as a malicious actor. And two, and most importantly for customers, is that allows you to participate in the block rewards generation of consensus. And so there's revenue or yield associated with staking that drives token holders to want to participate in it. And then the key for our product is, and what makes something truly staking as a service, is when a validator organization like ourselves provides the underlying infrastructure, but at no point has actual custody over the assets being delegated to it in order to perform consensus and generate those rewards. So those, while they're sort of linked on chain, there's never a point at which a validation firm or ourselves can get access to those tokens.
Yep, understood. So maybe I'm sure there's a clever way for you to describe how that happens, but I'm sure it's just a clever system of smart contracts. But love to understand how that works. But also, and then in a broader sense, Andrew, why is it that institutions who are, I guess, holding perhaps a significant amount of ETH in their treasury, certainly above the 32 ETH required to become a validator normally, why is it that institutions would look to utilize something like a validation cloud versus number one, I guess another staking as a service provider, or number two, why wouldn't they just do it themselves?
Yes, I think there's several reasons for that. One is really the technical complexity, especially with respect to Ethereum. There's a lot of nuances and there's a lot of dangers for doing it incorrectly, whether that being slashing risks, which are not unique to Ethereum, but are also exist in that protocol, which is if there's any malicious activity whether that's from purposefully or intentionally being malicious, or it just happens from sort of a misconfiguration. There's big risks to the underlying assets, and so working with an experienced provider is something that's tremendously advantageous. Two is, and it plays into the operating expertise, is the security. So we've done this on many networks, but also went through external audits for SOC 2 compliance to ensure the security of the surrounding infrastructure. And then thirdly, and perhaps most importantly in many ways, is sort of the time and resources costs that are required to do this. And so we have a full team of dedicated experts and the infrastructure. And if your business is an asset management firm or a custodian, really providing this service is not what your core business is. And so it allows you to participate in a way that's scalable, in a way that's significantly value accretive for the revenue that can be generated, without having to build an entire team in order to operationalize it.
Yeah, and and put simply, or put another way, that is why it is called staking as a service, because you're providing a valued service backed by your expertise, and it's really just an ease of use thing, while the institution in question maintains custodial control of the assets, right?
Exactly.
Be interested, Andrew, in to start with, I'm not sure how much you'd be prepared to share in terms of, I guess, kind of the metrics in terms of I don't know how many different clients you have, ballpark figures of I guess the amount of ETH concerned, or anything like that, or maybe another way of looking at that kind of data as the kind of the ramp up in terms of new users, if you like, just as the kind of the rollout of the ETH staking ecosystem happens, post merged, but just any kind of metrics from your side that you can kind of talk about.
Certainly. So at a high level, for staking as a service, currently, assets under delegation exceed several $100 million worth in institutional delegation, and so we're quite excited about that mark as a business, and also looking to rapidly expand that number based off of exciting go-to-market activity that we have. I think there's some unique features as well that some of our clients get them quite excited about interacting with us, particularly on the Ethereum staking side, which is it's an open platform in staking as a service. So you can simply go create an account on our platform and stake through our UI, or you can also stake by requesting API access. So especially if you're a custodian or an asset manager, you want programmatic control to be able to spin up and down different multiples of 32 Ethereum staked. That's something that you can do immediately on demand in our platform, which we're quite excited about. There was a lot of innovation that went around making that possible on demand. And
I'm curious, what is I don't know, put it in, just I guess to use the scale of, let's just say what a validator with 32 ETH, what is the rough yield that they could get at the moment on a monthly or annual basis? What are we looking at?
So right now for Ethereum, that's it. The yield on chain is roughly between 4% and 5%. What people miss is often that a key component of the rewards are tips that are from transaction fees. So there's actually a bit of a fluctuation. And so while the sort of inflationary element of the network, as more ETH gets staked, might go slightly down from that number. There's significant opportunities, especially as more applications are developed on top of Ethereum, and there's more growing activity, as we've seen. That will actually increase the rate of return on staked assets.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that in a broader sense then, Andrew. So, I guess one of the reasons why people are, so bullish on Ethereum more generally is that, yeah, I mean, let's say eventually there might be like a BlackRock Ethereum spot Ethereum ETF, for example, and other financial providers doing something similar, and eventually the long-term trend could be that more and more ETH is staked, is kind of locked up, perhaps taken away from the short-term supply side, if you like. Do you agree with that thesis, or what do you think happens over time?
Absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned in the introduction, I've been fortunate to be in Web3 for nearly 6 years at this point, and I can remember at the beginning stages, the news was that it would be crazy for any institutional asset manager to own Bitcoin, and over that 6-year period, that's gone from they'd have to be crazy until it's almost irrational in some levels not to consider it as part of your portfolio allocation and exposure. And so I think we'll see Ethereum follow a similar trend. And with respect to staking, is once you see institutional exposure to Ethereum, there's basically an opportunity cost associated with not staking those assets, that especially if you're not in an actively traded, or there's not a high velocity of the underlying asset in that product, it's quite simple then to extend that, stake the Ethereum, and the protocol is robust enough with unlocks that you can service any of the liquidity needs of that portfolio with simply staking and unstaking the asset on demand. And so that's the natural progression, is you'll see these large institutional managers actually participate in the staking of the underlying tokens, as well as building them into ETFs. Now, the timeline for what that happens is probably more of a regulation question, a risk appetite question on the part of those asset managers. But it's absolutely something that makes sense as the logical next step.
Yeah, well, that's right, and it's it's an interesting time, Andrew. You talked about being in Web3 for 5-6 years, whatever it is, and the kind of the change in a narrative, since during that time, and now certainly does seem like the world is opening up to the idea of investing in Bitcoin, and then of course Ethereum, and from there you can go further out on the risk curve, I suppose. Where do you think we are in terms of that, I guess, wider adoption cycle? It does feel like there is perhaps the beginning, just early green shoots of the next, call it what you want, the next wave of adoption or bull market or whatever. Very unpredictable what can happen in crypto bull markets, of course, and whether the next cycle will again be, followed by a terrible crash and a bear market, as has happened before. We just don't know. But yeah, where are we in that cycle at the moment, do you think?
So I think there's a few different ways to look at this. I mean, there's maybe the most commonly discussed one, which is the timing of the next Bitcoin halving, which in many ways sort of acts as like a self-fulfilling prophecy of spurring bull markets historically in the space. I do think, everybody says this, but from the experience on the ground, what we're seeing with ecosystem engagement in the different networks we support is that there's a lot more real to the underlying applications that are being built. And there's a lot, I think, more understanding from blue chip enterprises of how they can actually drive value to their business by using different blockchain solutions. So some examples, where we see this, ecosystems like Hedera and Stellar, which have been around the space for quite some time, have really robust ecosystems, particularly around tokenization of financial assets, around remittances. Some of the use cases that were quite promised early on in Web3, but have taken some time for the underlying infrastructure to be built, taking some time to get to the adoption inside these institutions to launch more than POCs. And so we're seeing great activity that we think is actually going to be the most powerful engine behind the next bull market. When crypto asset prices start to rise, there's quite significant real enterprise adoption in these ecosystems that's going to emerge as well.
Yes, indeed. That's very well said, Andrew. Changing tack a little. I mean, you have a background, I guess, deep in blockchain engineering, but also, the murky world, I guess, of cybersecurity. We always hear of how vulnerable not just the traditional layers of, I guess, what we would call, internet or Web 2.0. But of course, every week or so, there seems to be some kind of exploit across, various DeFi ecosystems or, ETH layer 2 chains and so on. From that perspective, what keeps you up at night? Is it this constant kind of push and pull between, I guess, the white hats and the black hats, if you like, and of course the murky world in between?
So I think, there's definitely a lot of growth that Web3 needs to go through in terms of, I think getting the retail users perhaps more comfortable and up to speed in order to sort of be well equipped with tools to have good cybersecurity practices online. An analogy here being in the Web 2 sense. Let's say you're going to a website. Often, let's say a Chrome browser will tell you, is your session encrypted? You see a green lock in the top left. And if you're trying to connect to a malicious site, it may warn you about that site prior to loading the page. Things like that nature that are more ubiquitous in the Web 2 world, but didn't used to be there. So I think Web3 needs to go through a similar tooling evolution to put the hands of better cybersecurity practices into the average user. But from cyber attacks, I think there's actually a lot of work being done in the Web3 space, particularly around smart contract security. A lot of great work being done there. And I think it's not so much that Web3 has more security risks. I think it's just they're much more well covered when they happen as compared to Web 2. Just because of the public and open nature of the hacks when they occur. It's all on chain. Everybody can see the result, where quite often there's probably more hacks in the Web 2 space on a daily basis, with even, similarly significant financial risks, but you just don't hear about that because they're kind of behind the closed walls of Web 2 centralized companies, rather than having that happen for all to see and see the movement of funds. And so there's actually probably much more robust ability to respond after a Web3 attack from an understanding where the funds are and the movement flow compared to Web 2. But there still is some growth that the space needs to go through.
Yes, indeed. Very well said again, Andrew. Very much agree with that. look, I guess we've covered Validation Cloud from the perspective of being, a high quality staking as a service provider, and why institutions would use services such as Validation Cloud. But just cover off the other services that Validation Cloud offers, Andrew. So I know there's data as a service. Of course, crypto node infrastructure. I think we mentioned that as well. But just briefly, cover those off. Explain the service offering there.
Sure. So, any Web3 business, whether you're a wallet, a custodian, an application, end user, needs a connection into a node in order to propagate the transaction on chain and understand the current state of the blockchain. So whether that's the historical data, the current state. And so this is really where the node and data as a service products come in. And in many ways, the Node API product is our flagship product. We've built to be a Cloudflare for Web3, which basically means that in order to interact with these networks, you need to, they're global audiences. So that requires a global set of infrastructure in order to actually lower the latency and increase the throughput for developers, for enterprises who are interacting with chains, to be able to read data and react to the state of on-chain affairs quickly enough. And so we've built a globally distributed network of nodes that is the lowest latency, highest throughput way in Web3 to connect and push your transactions and read the state of the chain.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, look, as we finish up this part of the podcast, then, Andrew, just make the case again for why institutions should use Validation Cloud for any of these services, but I guess particularly, staking as a service. And if so, what should people do? Where should people go to learn more?
Sure. So in summary, Validation Cloud, we're a high-performance Web3 infrastructure company. As you mentioned, that includes staking, Node API, and data as a service. And really, the platform was specifically built for institutions, whether that's the high performance, resilience, but also SOC 2 compliance. That's tremendously important and a rare aspect in Web3. And if you want to get started, you can do so immediately on our platform. You can simply go on, put in your email, and look through our staking as a service, Node API. You can stake on demand. You can create an API key completely on demand. If you want to reach out, we also have ways at validationcloud.io to get connected directly with a member of our team. If you'd like to speak with a representative of the company, that you can do directly from the landing page of our website.
Fantastic. Links, of course, are in the show notes as well, listeners. But yeah, validationcloud.io, the website there. I think what we do now, Andrew, is we'll go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll run you through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round. Back in 1 second.
Oh, this is a full-time job. Crypto markets really are 24/7. Oh, Elon's tweeted again about Dogecoin. I don't have the time to research the technical indicators of Dogecoin. What are you doing?
I just use CopyTrader on BitGet. One click and I'm copying the trades from an experienced crypto trader. Then it just gives me all the time in the world to watch my favourite Netflix shows and do all my favourite activities.
I've been up for 24 hours, I've had 16 cups of coffee, 8 energy drinks, and that bird noise is getting on my last nerve.
I think you need to go to bed.
Yeah, I need to go to bed.
Hands off, gains up. Start copy trading on BitGet.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Andrew McFarlane. Andrew is the CTO and co-founder at Validation Cloud. Among other things, providing staking as a service for institutional clients needing full service staking solution. Simple as that, really. Andrew, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it, Andrew. Just going to run some questions at you. No right or wrong way to do it. Just give us your kind of honest answers, hot take style, if you like. Question one for you. Where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Somewhere in the middle. Do you want me to provide more context, or just simply rapid fire answers?
Some context is absolutely good. Let's get your full perspective, because I'm sure it'll be well thought out. So yeah, please go for it.
Sure. So for us, obviously we support many different ecosystems. Very much believe in many ways of an application-specific view of blockchain ecosystems. What that means, in my opinion, is very rarely there will be a circumstance where a network is great at everything that is possible on top of Web3, but will have built the set of infrastructure, the set of trade-offs from a network perspective in order to enhance that use case, whether that's sort of gaming, finance, energy credits, whatever it may be. But in that view, Bitcoin has a very potent use case as a store of value. And there's opportunities to also build more tooling on top of the Bitcoin network. And there's a lot of great work being done. And so my answer of somewhere in the middle is based off of, we want to see great application-specific networks evolve and be a part of those ecosystems, but that doesn't mean there's not a very robust future for Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, I very much agree, Andrew. I think that is a very valid perspective. What would you say, though, then, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion, Andrew?
Crypto conviction opinion. Web3 is here to stay. I've seen a tremendous amount of skepticism around this ecosystem going back 6 years until today, and so it's going to continue to evolve, and there's going to be a rapid amount of institutional adoption, whether that's from blue chip enterprises or traditional asset managers. As you're hearing some opinions from AI folks today saying, every company will have an AI strategy. I think there's a similar notion around Web3, where basically every company will have a Web3 strategy looking sort of 10, 20 years into the future.
Yeah, well, I guess another way of thinking about that, Andrew, is, a quote from Bill Gates, who famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So aside from perhaps every company having a Web3 strategy, Web3 in general, 10 years time, it's a long time away, but what does it look like?
Yeah, and I think, was that an additional question, or?
Well, just generally, Web3 in 10 years time, what do we expect?
Yeah, I think to add on that, I think it won't just be that. Actually, let me reframe this. I think a lot of people look at it through a retail lens, and they say, well, you have to sort of know you're interacting Web3 for it to be Web3, whether that's sort of difficulties with wallet management, not fully understanding smart contracts, thing of that nature. I actually think the future of Web3 is where you actually don't even realize from a retail perspective you're interacting with an underlying blockchain. So whether that's the accounting of certain financial transactions, the issuing of transactions themselves, are happening without you being even fully aware that there's an underlying blockchain for that activity. And so I think that's what the future looks like. Is it's really sort of the engine underneath the hood for a lot of internet-based activity.
Yes, indeed. Very well said. Flip side of this, Andrew, is a quote from William Gibson, who famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
That is a good question. I mean, I think there's a lot of great work in different applications. I think, and I know the question is based off of, where's the future, but I think there's actually exciting developments that are being made that are actually applications where I think most of us had thought maybe it was sort of an obvious answer to where does Web3 make sense back in 2017, 2018, 2019. And we're really seeing that real come to life with those applications today. So an example that we've seen, let's say in the Stellar ecosystem, is there's great work being done by MoneyGram on the remittance side to basically solve remittance challenges globally for folks. And a lot of great work with stablecoins in that ecosystem to make the flow of money between hook and points for MoneyGram seamless, efficient. And so I think in many ways, that's the future that already folks can interact with. They may not be always understanding that they're dealing with a Web3 protocol underneath the hood, but it's a great example where it impacts the lives of real people and is a quite important use case today.
Yes, indeed. Very well said again, Andrew. Time to finish off, really. The final question, Andrew. What is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Ooh. Has nothing to do with Web3, but probably Planet of the Apes. Just because I'm a big fan of the movie.
Yeah, fantastic. Great choice. Yeah, my son's watching the contemporary versions of the Planet of the Apes films at the moment. Very much enjoying them. So yeah, cool. We'll take that. Definitely sci-fi.
Absolutely.
Andrew, look, been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spending some time with us. Nothing else to do really, except again, just, please feel free to share your own Twitter if you have one, or Validation Clouds, and again, tell people where they should go to learn more about the various product and service offerings from Validation Cloud.
Yeah, so thank you again for having me on, Andy. Really appreciate the time today. To learn more about Validation Cloud, you can find out more information on our website, which is validationcloud.io. We also have an account on X and on Medium, where we post a lot of great content, as well as LinkedIn, which is quite popular, where we post a lot of announcements for the company, and as well as team highlights, which is always great to see. We've been going through great amount of growth of global employees from great Web2, Web3 companies. So we often post that on our Medium and LinkedIn accounts as well. And if you want to contact us directly, you should be able to find on our landing page a method of sending a form contact, or you can email us directly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Andrew from Validation Cloud. Providing staking as a service for institutional clients for proof of stake chains. It's not a proof of stake chain, Bitcoin, of course, but it is interesting, just as we record, Bitcoin has ticked over 42,000 US. So yeah, really is interesting to watch Bitcoin at the moment. I guess it's just the relentless bid does seem to indicate that those Bitcoin ETFs are going to be approved, and it's just a relentless bid on Bitcoin at the moment. Great to see, I guess. Look, hey, thanks team for listening to the show. Please do make sure you're subscribed to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using. But that is it for today. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.